Welcome to FAMILYPATTERN with Fidelis. This is a channel where we discuss issues relating to our relationship, family and leadership. In this video I want to share a love story between Ruth and Boaz. Please ensure to subscribe to this channel for more informative videos. Please subscribe. Amazingly, the love that sparked between Ruth and Boaz has proved far more enduring and noble than any of these love affairs, and in fact, still affects the lives of all the billions of us living today, more than 3,000 years after these lovers met. Their romance is also a picture of a mystical and spiritual love offered to you and me. The story of Ruth and Boaz deals with cross-cultural and forbidden love, immigration and the relationship between a powerful man and a vulnerable woman, applicable in today's #MeToo era. It becomes a blueprint for us on how to establish a healthy marriage. By any of these measures, the love story of Ruth and Boaz is worth knowing. Their love is recorded in the book of Ruth in the Bible. It is a short book, only 2,400 words long, and is well worth reading. Here. It is set about 1150 BCE, making this the oldest of all recorded love stories. It has been made into several films. Hollywood movie depicting the Ruth love story. The love story of Ruth. Naomi and her husband with their 2 sons leave Israel to escape drought and settle in the nearby country of Moab, today's Jordan. After marrying local women, the 2 sons die, as does Naomi's husband, leaving her alone with her 2 daughters-in-law. Naomi decides to return to her native Israel, and one of her daughters-in-law, Ruth, chooses to accompany her. After a long absence, Naomi is back in her native Bethlehem as a destitute widow accompanied by Ruth, a young and vulnerable Moabite immigrant. Ruth and Boaz meet bereft of income. Ruth goes out to gather grain left behind by the local harvest crews in the fields. The law of Moses, as a social safety net, had ordained harvesters to leave some grains behind in their fields so the impoverished could gather food. Randomly, it would seem, Ruth finds herself picking grains in the fields of a wealthy landowner named Boaz. Boaz notices Ruth among the others working hard to gather up the grains left behind by his work crews. He instructs his foreman to leave extra grain behind in the field so that she could gather more. Ruth and Boaz meet. Much art has been done depicting their meeting. Ruth and Boaz meet. Much art has been done depicting their meeting because she can gather plentifully in his fields. Ruth comes back to Boaz's fields every day to gather leftover grain. Boaz, ever the protector, ensures that Ruth is not harassed or molested by any of his crews. Ruth and Boaz are interested in each other, but because of differences in age, social status, and nationality, neither makes a move. Here Naomi steps in as matchmaker. She instructs Ruth to boldly lay down by Boaz's side at night after he has celebrated the harvest gathering. Boaz understands this as a marriage proposal and decides to marry her. Kinsman redeemer, but the situation is more complicated than simply love between them. Naomi is a relative of Boaz, and since Ruth is her daughter-in-law, Boaz and Ruth are kin by marriage. Boaz must marry her as a kinsman redeemer. This meant that under the law of Moses he would marry her in the name of her first husband, Naomi's son, and so provide for her. This would entail that Boaz purchase Naomi's family fields. Though that would prove costly to Boaz, it was not the biggest obstacle. There was another closer relative that had first rights to buy Naomi's family's fields, and also thus marry Ruth. So the marriage of Ruth to Boaz hung on whether another man wanted the responsibility to care for Naomi and Ruth. At a public meeting of the city elders, this first-in-line declined the marriage since it put his own estate at risk. Boaz was thus free to purchase and redeem Naomi's family estate and marry Ruth. Legacy of Ruth and Boaz: in their union they had a child, Obed, who in turn became the grandfather of King David. David was promised that a Christ would come from his family. Further prophecies were given, and finally Jesus Christ was born in Bethlehem, the same town that Ruth and Boaz had met in long before. Their romance, marriage and family line resulted in offspring that today is the basis for our modern calendar, and global holidays like Christmas and Easter. Not bad for a romance in a dusty village over 3,000 years ago. Picturing a greater love story: the chivalry and respect with which the rich and powerful Boaz treated Ruth, the destitute foreign woman, is a model contrasting the harassments and exploitations now common in our #MeToo day. The historical impact of the family line which this romance and marriage produced, detectable every time we note the date on our devices, gives this love story an enduring legacy. But the Ruth and Boaz love story is also a picture of an even greater love, one you and I are invited into. The Bible describes us in a manner evoking Ruth when it says, "I will plant her for myself in the land. I will show my love to the one I called, not my loved one." Hosea chapter 2 verse 23. The Old Testament prophet Hosea, ca. 750 BC, used the reconciliation in his own fractured marriage to picture God reaching out to us with his love. Like Ruth, who entered the land as one unloved, but then was shown love by Boaz, he desires to show his love even to those of us who feel far from his love. This is quoted in the New Testament, Romans chapter 9 verse 25, to show how God reaches wide to love those far from him. How is his love shown? Jesus, that descendant offspring from Boaz and Ruth, is God come in the flesh and is thus our kinsman, just as Boaz was to Ruth. Jesus paid our debt of sin to God on the cross, and thus he gave himself for us to redeem us from all wickedness and to purify for himself a people that are his very own, eager to do what is good. Titus chapter 2 verse 14. As Boaz was a kinsman redeemer, who paid a price to redeem Ruth, Jesus is our kinsman redeemer, who paid, with his life, to redeem us. A model for our marriages the way Jesus, and Boaz, paid to redeem and then win his bride models how we can build our marriages. The Bible explains how we establish our marriages. Submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. Wives, submit yourselves to your own husbands as you do to the Lord. 23. For the husband is the head of the wife as Christ is the head of the church, his body, of which he is the Savior. 24. Now as the church submits to Christ, so also wives should submit to their husbands in everything. 25. Husbands, love your wives, just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. 26. To make her holy, cleansing her by the washing with water through the word. 27. And to present her to himself as a radiant church, without stain or wrinkle or any other blemish, but holy and blameless. 28. In the same way, husbands ought to love their wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself. 29. After all, no one ever hated their own body, but they feed and care for their body, just as Christ does the church. 30. For we are members of his body. 31. For this reason a man will leave his father and mother and be united to his wife, and the two will become one flesh. 32. This is a profound mystery, but I am talking about Christ and the church. 33. However, each one of you also must love his wife as he loves himself, and the wife must respect her husband. Ephesians chapter 5 verses 21 to 33. As Boaz and Ruth established their marriage on love and respect, and Jesus' care for the church is a model for husbands to love their wives sacrificially, so we do well to build our marriages on these same values. A wedding invitation for you and me. As in all good love stories, the Bible concludes with a wedding. Just as the price that Boaz paid to redeem Ruth paved the way for their wedding, the price that Jesus paid has paved the way for our wedding. That wedding is not figurative but real, and those accepting his wedding invitation are called the bride of Christ. As it says, "Let us rejoice and be glad and give him glory. For the wedding of the Lamb has come, and his bride has made herself ready." Revelation chapter 19 verse 7. Those who receive Jesus' offer of redemption become his bride. This heavenly wedding is offered to all of us. The Bible ends with this invitation for you and me to come to his wedding. The Spirit and the bride say, "Come." And let the one who hears say, "Come." Let the one who is thirsty come, and let the one who wishes take the free gift of the water of life. Revelation chapter 22 verse 17. The relationship between Ruth and Boaz is a model of love that is still making itself felt today. It is a picture of the heavenly romance of God who loves us. He will marry as his bride all who accept his marriage proposal. As with any marriage proposals, his offer should be weighed to see if you should accept it. Start here with the plan, laid out in the beginning from the beginning of human history, and follow its development. Notice how it is all predicted long beforehand to prove it really is God's proposal. Please subscribe to this channel.